The Interactive Effects toolbar has a number of tools that give you the ability to change the appearance of an object. Open up the Interactive Effects toolbar. The first is our drop shadow. Drop shadow allows me to left-click and drag on an object and create a shadow. I'm going to grab my zoom tool, just zoom into this area a little bit, and we can continue playing with this shadow. I'm going to do a Control-Z to undo this. With the drop shadow tool selected, I can click towards the bottom of the element and pull it out and give the illusion that the light is coming from in front of it or behind it. Do a number of different things with this drop shadow. Really make it quite effective. Let me just undo that. I'm going to give it another drop shadow. This time I'll go right in the center and pull it down a bit. You'll notice that I have the ability to as well change the color of that drop shadow. I can change the feathering simply by moving this slider. I also have the ability to do that on the interactive property bar. Now here's something that's kind of neat. I'm going to take this drop shadow and I'm going to make sure that it's 0 and 0. These are the coordinates of this drop shadow. Next, I'm going to adjust the opacity of that. I'm going to bring that up to about 80%. I'm going to bring the feathering down to about 10%. I want an inside drop shadow. I'm going to change that to white. And I'm going to change my merge mode to normal. Now, if I go up to my Objects menu and break this drop shadow apart, here's something that's kind of fun to do. I'm going to select the drop shadow, and if I do a Control Home, that's going to bring it to the front. So I've effectively created a three-dimensional object with a drop shadow. Something else that's kind of neat is if I hold the Alt key down, remember the Alt key acts as a digger tool when I have my pick tool selected. So hold the Alt key down, click in the center. I can see that I have my text in behind selected, and now I can change this text to whatever color I want. It's a great little way to create a three-dimensional effect with the drop shadow tool. The next tool in the toolbox is the contour tool. I'm going to select the contour tool. You'll notice on my interactive property bar, I have a couple of options up here. I can apply a contour to the center, to the inside, or to the outside, and this allows me to create the number of steps, and I can do a couple of other things as well. To create a contour is simply a matter of selecting my object. I'll select where I want the contour to be, and that's going to be outside on this one. I can set the number of steps. I also have the ability of changing the color in here. And very quick and very easy, you can see how I've created multiple contours to this piece of text. In here, we can set the size of the contour as well. I have the ability to change my contour corners so I can have mitered or rounded depending on how I want that effect to appear. The next tool on the interactive tool flyout is the blend tool. Let me just do a Shift F4. That will zoom me to my page. I'm going to select this yellow ellipse. I'll click on my blend tool and it allows me to drag from one object to the next, and watch as I release the mouse button. It's actually blended from the ellipse to the square, yellow to green. I can control the number of steps on that blend. I can also blend on a path. So if I select my element, clicking on this icon, I can dictate where my new path is. And now using this crooked arrow, I'm just going to point to the path. Very easy. I put this along the path, and I also have the ability, of course, to increase the number of steps. If I wanted to, I can actually select the path itself. And then if I remove the outline for that path, then all you'll see is the curve of those objects. Now I'm going to switch to the next page simply by doing a page down, and we'll take a look at the next three items in the interactive tool flyout. The first is the distort. Select my object, and it's simply a matter of pulling on it, and it'll actually add a distort. Let me just do a Shift F2 to zoom into whatever's selected, and you can see the effect that that's done to it. I'll do a Control-Z to undo that, and I'll show it to you once more. It's a matter of pulling your mouse out. You'll notice on my interactive property bar, I've got a number of different types of distortion that I can do to it. And the third one is the twister. Now, I also have the ability of changing the direction and the speed at which it does that, and there's other options in here. But again, I'd like you to experiment on your own just to see what the different settings do, and it's a great way to learn more about the application itself. I need to move over to another area of the screen, and if you remember in another video we were talking about panning and zooming. Do you remember where the nano preview is? You'll find that right down here in the bottom right-hand corner. Simply left-click and move to the area that you want. I'll zoom out just a little bit, and let me grab my pick tool. I'll just pan over a little bit more. The envelope tool allows me to create what we refer to as an envelope around an object. When I select the object, you'll notice a frame around here It looks very similar to the marquee selection area from the pick tool, except that it's blue. I can actually take any one of these nodes and pull it down, move it up, and do any number of distortions that I want to on this, and it'll actually distort what is in that envelope. I also have the ability to double-click anywhere on the line, add a node, and further distort these elements. Let's go to the last tool in the flyout, and that's the extrude tool. Shift F4 will zoom to the entire page. Tap my spacebar to return me to the pick tool. I'll select the extrude, and then Shift F2 to zoom into that. I'm going to zoom out just a little bit. I'll select my extrude tool and left-click and drag. And this allows me to make this object look as though it's been extruded. I have the ability to change the vanishing point, and that will dictate where this is being extruded, or the angle that is, as well as the depth of the extrusion. On the interactive property bar as well, I have the ability of adding color to this. So for example, if I wanted to make this a solid colored face, go to a different color on the background, and I can certainly do that. Or I can go multiple colors, and let's go to the pinkish color, and we'll leave that like that. So that's a brief overview of the interactive tool flyout. I do encourage you to experiment and play with the settings on your own, and you'll be amazed at what beautiful things you can create.